There is a moment that feels small on the surface but heavy in the chest. You share good news, the words leave your mouth with hope, excitement, maybe even relief. Faces respond correctly, smiles appear. Congratulations are spoken, yet something inside you tightens instead of expands. The joy you expected to feel shared quietly collapses inward. If you have ever experienced this, listen carefully, because this is not imagination, insecurity, or overthinking. This is awareness waking up. Not everyone who looks happy for you is genuinely happy for you, and realizing this marks a turning point in how you move through life. Genuine happiness has a certain weight to it. It settles warmly, it feels steady. When someone is truly happy for you, you don't have to search for it. You feel it immediately. Their presence relaxes you. Their reaction feels unforced. They don't rush past the moment or shrink it with silence. But when happiness is not genuine, the body notices before the mind does. The smile may be there, but the energy is thin. The words may be kind, but the warmth is missing. And this subtle mismatch is what creates confusion for so many people. One of the hardest truths to accept is that growth changes how people respond to you, even when they care about you. As long as you remain familiar, predictable, or equal in circumstance, connection feels easy. But the moment your life begins to expand, when effort turns into progress, and progress turns into visible change, something shifts. You don't just bring news into the room, you bring contrast. And contrast makes some people uncomfortable, even if they never admit it. Pay attention to what happens after you share your joy. Do people linger in the moment, or do they move past it quickly? Do they ask questions that invite you to speak more, or do they redirect the conversation? Do you feel encouraged to celebrate, or subtly discouraged from expressing too much excitement? These responses matter more than words ever could. Genuine happiness does not compete for space, it makes room. Many people believe that if someone smiles, claps, or says the right things, that must mean support. But politeness and happiness are not the same. Politeness is social. Happiness is emotional. Politeness performs. Happiness participates. When someone is not genuinely happy for you, politeness becomes the mask that allows them to stay present without being emotionally involved. This is why some reactions feel hollow even when nothing negative is said. It's important to understand that this lack of genuine happiness is not always rooted in malice. Often it comes from unresolved inner conflict. Your progress may stir feelings they have avoided: regret, comparison, self-doubt, or fear of being left behind. Instead of confronting those emotions, some people unconsciously withdraw from yours. Their distance is not about punishing you, it's about protecting themselves from discomfort. Your intuition notices this before your logic catches up. That hesitation before sharing your next update, that instinct to celebrate privately instead of publicly, that feeling of emotional loneliness in a room full of people, these are not signs of weakness. They are signs of emotional intelligence developing. Awareness doesn't arrive loudly, it arrives quietly, through repeated patterns you can no longer ignore. The danger is not that some people are not genuinely happy for you. The danger is expecting them to be. When you assume everyone can hold your joy, disappointment follows. But when you adjust expectations, peace replaces confusion. You stop seeking validation in places where it cannot exist. You stop explaining your happiness to people who are not emotionally equipped to receive it. This realization does not harden you, it grounds you. You don't become suspicious or closed. You become discerning. You learn to observe without accusing, to notice without reacting, to protect your joy without hiding it. And once this awareness settles in, you begin to move differently, calmer, quieter, and more aligned with yourself. Comparison often enters quietly, without hostility or intention. It slips into moments that should feel celebratory and turns them inward. When you share good news, some people hear it and immediately begin measuring, not against you openly, but against themselves internally. Where am I compared to them? Why haven't I done that yet? What does this say about my life? In that moment, their attention shifts away from your joy and toward their own unresolved questions. And when comparison takes over, genuine happiness struggles to exist. This is why some reactions feel delayed or restrained. The smile appears, but the emotion doesn't arrive with it. The congratulations are spoken, but the energy feels neutral. These responses are not always intentional, but they are revealing. When someone is genuinely happy for you, your success feels like shared light. When comparison dominates, your success feels like contrast. And contrast can be uncomfortable. As your growth becomes more visible, these reactions often change. Early stages of progress are easy to support because they feel distant and uncertain. Dreams are safe to applaud when outcomes are unclear. But when consistency turns into results, the emotional cost increases. Your progress becomes real. It becomes proof, and proof removes excuses. This is often when enthusiasm fades and neutrality replaces celebration. You may notice that people who once encouraged you now respond more quietly. They listen, but they don't engage. They acknowledge, but they don't expand the moment. This is not always jealousy. Sometimes it is limitation. Not everyone has the emotional capacity to hold someone else's success without internal conflict. Comparison also affects how people interpret your journey. Instead of seeing effort, they see threat. Instead of seeing discipline, they see pressure. Instead of seeing growth, they see reminder. And reminders can feel heavy to those who are avoiding self-reflection, so they protect themselves by emotionally stepping back. This is where confusion often arises. You haven't changed your behavior toward them. You haven't become unkind or distant. Yet the dynamic feels different. The warmth softens. Conversations feel shorter. There is less curiosity, less enthusiasm. When this happens repeatedly, it is not coincidence. It is misalignment revealing itself through subtle shifts. Many people respond to this by shrinking their joy. They downplay achievements. They soften excitement. They celebrate quietly to avoid making others uncomfortable. While this may preserve surface harmony, it carries an internal cost. When you repeatedly minimize yourself to protect others, you teach yourself that your joy is something to manage rather than honor. True support does not require self-reduction. People who are genuinely happy for you do not need you to be smaller. They are not threatened by your growth. They can celebrate without comparison because your progress does not destabilize their sense of self. Understanding this changes your expectations. You stop assuming that everyone who cares about you can celebrate you fully. You recognize that genuine happiness from others is a gift, not a guarantee. And when it is absent, you don't take it personally, you take it as information. This awareness brings relief. You stop chasing reactions. You stop waiting for enthusiasm that never arrives. You allow people to be where they are without forcing them to meet you emotionally. And in doing so, you reclaim your joy. Politeness is often mistaken for happiness, but the two are very different. Politeness follows rules, happiness follows truth. When someone is not genuinely happy for you, politeness becomes the safest mask they can wear. It allows them to appear supportive without being emotionally involved. This is why some reactions feel correct, but empty. The words land, but the warmth does not. The interaction moves forward, but the connection does not deepen. As your growth continues, you may notice a shift from openness to courtesy. Conversations become more formal. The ease that once existed feels replaced by restraint. Nothing is openly wrong, yet something is no longer right. This change is subtle enough to dismiss, but consistent enough to feel. Emotional distance often follows unspoken envy because envy creates internal tension, and politeness helps manage that tension without confrontation. Authenticity requires emotional presence. It asks people to stay with feelings that may be uncomfortable. Politeness avoids this. It allows someone to acknowledge your success without having to process what it stirs inside them. This is why some people smile, congratulate you, and then quickly redirect the conversation. They have met the social expectation, but emotionally, they have already stepped away. Pay attention to engagement, not etiquette. When happiness is genuine, people linger in the moment. They stay curious. They invite you to share more. When it is not, the moment feels rushed. The conversation shifts. Over time, these small exits accumulate and the connection thins without a clear reason. Joy has a way of revealing what words never could. When someone withdraws as you grow, it is rarely because of something you did wrong. More often, It is because your happiness exposes something unresolved within them. Joy highlights contrast. It brings satisfaction and dissatisfaction into the same space. And for those who are still carrying unmet desires, postponed dreams, or quiet regrets, being close to someone else's fulfillment can feel confronting. Unresolved dissatisfaction does not always look like resentment. Often it appears as fatigue, detachment, or emotional withdrawal. A person may not feel anger toward you, but they may feel heavier in your presence. Not because you are draining, but because your joy reminds them of what they have avoided addressing in themselves. Distance becomes a form of emotional self-protection. This withdrawal can be confusing because it arrives without explanation. Conversations slow down, invitations become less frequent, responses feel shorter. Nothing dramatic happens, yet the closeness changes. From the outside, it can feel like rejection. From the inside, it is often avoidance. It's important to understand that this process is not always permanent. Sometimes people need space to process emotions they were not prepared for. Growth changes dynamics, and not everyone can adjust immediately. But whether temporary or lasting, this withdrawal is not something you can control. At this stage, many people feel an urge to explain themselves, to reassure others that success hasn't changed them, to soften their joy so it feels less intimidating. But genuine connection does not require justification. Relationships rooted in authenticity can adapt to growth. Those rooted in sameness often cannot. This is where self-respect quietly replaces people-pleasing. You stop chasing closeness that no longer flows naturally. You stop apologizing for being fulfilled. You allow others to take the space they need without interpreting it as a personal failure. Emotional maturity determines who can truly celebrate you without conditions. It is not about how kind someone appears or how long you've known them. It is about their capacity to hold joy that is not their own. A mature person can witness your growth without turning it into a measurement of themselves. Some people are comfortable cheering for beginnings but struggle with outcomes. They applaud intentions but feel uneasy around results. Early steps feel safe because they don't disrupt anyone's self-image. But sustained progress changes the emotional equation. Understanding emotional maturity changes your expectations. You stop demanding reactions that others are not equipped to give. You no longer interpret muted responses as rejection. You see them as limitations. As awareness deepens, many people naturally begin to share less, not out of fear, but out of wisdom. Selective sharing is not secrecy. It is self-respect in motion. You choose listeners, not audiences. One person who is genuinely happy for you nourishes more than a room full of polite smiles. Selective sharing strengthens intuition. Without constant feedback, your inner voice becomes clearer. You stop managing reactions. Joy becomes self-sustaining. As selective sharing becomes natural, self-trust takes the lead. You no longer measure your joy by how others respond. You stop scanning faces for approval. Your emotional center stabilizes within you. Self-trust brings steadiness. Fewer emotional highs and lows. Less reactivity. Relationships reorganize naturally. Some fade quietly, others deepen. Eventually you stop weighing reactions altogether. Joy becomes quieter but deeper. Fulfillment arrives before acknowledgement. You see people clearly without judgment. Not everyone will be genuinely happy for you, and that no longer troubles you. Because you are. You honor your joy. You protect it wisely. You share it intentionally. And from that place you move forward, clear, calm, and grounded, rooted in self-trust, guided by discernment and free from the need for validation. That is where peace lives.